We're going to start in just a couple of minutes. Making sure that the camera is actually not covered. For those of you who don't know or haven't met me, I think everyone in here knows me, but online, if you haven't, I'm Dr. Carla Adams, and I'm on the board here, and I teach usually every fifth Sunday. Every month it has a fifth Sunday I teach. But this week I get 2 weeks in a row, which is never happens. Never happens. This week Anna's out of town. She and Greg are off enjoying a vacation, I believe, in the Dominican Republic. If I'm correct, I could be wrong, but I think that's correct. And then next week, Matt's going to be gone, so 2 weeks in a row. So what we're going to do is take advantage of that, and I have a big section that I love, one of my favorite sections in all of A Course in Miracles, and we're going to do it in 2 parts. So obviously, today is part 1. There are some cool colored lenses on your chairs. Before everyone gets settled in, because I had to put it out, I didn't know how many people would be here, there's an opportunity for you to check and choose your color. I will tell you, the darker the lens, the more likely it's going to impact you in the exercise we're going to do a little later. And if you're like me and you need glasses, they do actually, you can put your glasses on and put them on over your glasses, they fit. I tried that out yesterday. So if you want to wander around because you feel like your glasses are too light so you can have a real experience, I'd look for red, dark green, blue. But either way, you're going to enjoy the experience. You'll get it. Oh. Okay. Yeah, could you do me a favor and make sure that I turned on the mic back there? Oh, it has to be on if you turned on that fan, so.
Your mic is on. And
No, I'm talking about this mic, I'm going to use this mic. You know how you turn it on underneath?
I saw you do it earlier.
I did turn it on, okay. Well, here's how we test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test.
Yep.
Okay. All right, wonderful. So also, for those of you that don't really know me, I'm an edutainer. So an edutainer is someone who uses entertainment to bring educational quality. Some of you have been to play shops that Anna and I have put on. And you know that when you walk through the door at something that I do, everything is rigged. And I will watch you from the minute you walk through the door. Believe it or not, I watched every one of you come through that door. And I know, for example, Chris came in and first turned to the right before she came in here. I'm not going to say what she might have done with her eye. I don't know. I can't see through the wall, but I can guess. So as that is part of holistic living, is really being aware of everything going on around us and what we're doing with it. So that's why you also always have a handout when I teach, because I teach differently. So if you don't have your book, you do have a handout. But if you have the book, I did not look up in the purple edition, so I can't tell you I don't know the purple edition. But in the blue Foundation for Inner Peace, it is chapter 31, section 7, the Savior's Vision. So, 31, section 7, the Savior's Vision. So I'll give you all a minute to get there. I haven't even had the first drink of my coffee, so we better get that in too.
Natural. Yeah, she said a darker color, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you'll have different experiences. We're playing glass exchanges here. For those of you online who don't know about the glasses and the handout sitting here on the table, on the chairs, we're going to have a little activity later. You'll get to kind of explore and examine it with me, but it's we have a bunch of really cool colored glasses on. All of them are heart-shaped though, so we're all looking for love, right? With the loving intent. None of them look like stop signs. All right. So as we delve in to the Savior's vision, I want to build a little bit about where we're at in A Course in Miracles journey. In the text, we're at the end, right? And the text is really telling us the bigger meat beyond the workbook lessons, right? It's kind of setting us up to be the teachers that the teacher's manual takes us further into, right? So in a lot of ways, this is the end of the book. If you're thinking about the text, right? How many of you are willing to admit that, like me, if you're in a really slow book, sometimes you go to the end of the book to see if you're even going to like the ending? I am notorious. I do the same thing with videos. Oh, you're way too slow, you know. But that screen, that scene, that scene, that scene. Oh, this one looks like it might be an interesting scene. So that's kind of how I went through A Course in Miracles the first time. Right? So anyone who's been through A Course in Miracles from page 1 to I don't know how many pages at the end, I applaud you, because that was not how I could do it. There was no way when I first entered A Course in Miracles that I was in the mindset to be able to go to different places. So for those of you that don't know, I used to be a Southern Baptist youth minister when I was in my 20s. And one of the ways oftentimes I would figure out what I was going to teach is I would take the Bible and I would just let it flop open. And wherever it flopped open, that's what I would teach on. I mean, I would prep in advance, but when I was doing my prep, that's what I did. So that's what I did this time. It's like, okay, Spirit, we have a lot that we can do. And if I had a bookmark in, and so I was like, okay, it's probably going to just open where my bookmark is. But it didn't. It came all the way to the Savior's vision. I thought, that's interesting, considering the conversations we've been having over the last few weeks. Looking at guilt, looking at the joy measures, looking at so many different things. This piece seems to be like a seasonal wrap of what we've been talking about all summer. It's like, okay, let's pull it all together. And now let's look from the Savior's vision. Now remember, I came from a Southern Baptist background, so for those of you who see the word Savior and think, I am in the wrong place, I invite you to breathe. Because A Course in Miracles does not mean Savior the way we would have seen it in the Bible. And we'll talk about that. All right, everyone has your glasses. You can wear them now if you would like, but we're not going to use them until about 2/3 of the way in. Now, what I did is I took this section because last time I had Jeanette and Heather read. Those of you that were here will remember how beautifully they read back and forth. Today I turned it into a meditation, and so I'm going to invite you. I'm hearing, it's probably the fan. Hopefully the video is not picking it up. Sorry for the, all of a sudden I heard a fan going. Close your eyes. This is something that I was hoping George was going to be here, because I kind of tell him this might be something he can do for movie night. But I'm going to use this mic.
Learning is change. Salvation does not seek to use a means as yet too alien to your thinking to be helpful, nor to make the kinds of change you could not recognize. Concepts are needed while perception lasts, and changing concepts is salvation's task, for it must deal in contrasts, not in truth, which has no opposite and cannot change. In this world, concepts are the guilty bad, the good are innocent. And no one here but holds a concept of himself in which he counts the good to pardon him the bad, nor does he trust the good in anyone, believing that the bad must lurk behind. This this concept emphasizes treachery, then trust becomes impossible. Nor could it change while you perceive the bad in you. You could not recognize your evil thoughts as long as you see value in attack. You will perceive them sometimes, but will not see them as meaningless. And so they come in fearful form, with content still concealed, to shake your sorry concept of yourself and blacken it with still another crime. You cannot give yourself your innocence, for you are too confused about yourself. But should one brother dawn upon your sight as wholly worthy of forgiveness, then your concept of yourself is wholly changed. Your evil thoughts have been forgiven with his, because you let them all affect you not. No longer do you choose that you should be the sign of evil and of guilt in him. And as you give your trust to what is good in him, you give it to the good in you. In terms of concepts, it is thus you see him more than just a body, for the good is never what the body seems to be. The actions of the body are perceived as coming from the baser part of you, and thus of him as well. By focusing upon the good in him, the body grows decreasingly persistent in your sight, and will at length be seen as little more than just a shadow circling round the good. And this will be your concept of yourself, when you have reached the world beyond the sight your eyes alone can offer you to see. For you will not interpret what you see without the aid that God has given you. And in his sight there is another world. You live in that world just as much as this, for both are concepts of yourself, which can be interchanged but never jointly held. The contrast is far greater than you think, for you will love this concept of yourself because it was not made for you alone. Born as a gift for someone not perceived to be yourself, it has been given you, for your forgiveness offered unto him has been accepted now for both of you. Have faith in him who walks with you, so that your fearful concept of yourself may change, and look upon the good in him, that you may not be frightened by your evil thoughts, because they do not cloud your view of him. And all this shift requires is that you be willing that this happy change occur. No more than this is asked. On its behalf, remember what the concept of yourself that now you hold has brought you in its wake, and welcome the glad contrast offered you. Hold out your hand, that you may have the gift of kind forgiveness, which you offer one whose need for it is just the same as yours. And let the cruel concept of yourself be changed to one that brings the peace of God. The concept of yourself that now you hold would guarantee your function here remain forever unaccomplished and undone. And thus it dooms you to a bitter sense of deep depression and futility. Yet it need not be fixed unless you choose to hold it past the hope of change and keep it static and concealed within your mind. Give it instead to him who understands the changes that it needs to let it serve the function given you to bring you peace, that you may offer peace to have it yours. Alternatives are in your mind to use, and you can see yourself another way. Would you not rather look upon yourself as needed for salvation of the world, instead of as salvation's enemy? The concept of the self stands like a shield, a silent barricade before the truth, and hides it from your sight. All things you see are images, because you look on them as through a barrier that dims your sight and warps your vision, so that you behold nothing with clarity. The light is kept from everything you see. At most, you glimpse a shadow of what lies beyond. At least, you merely look on darkness and perceive the terrified imaginings that come from guilty thoughts and concepts born of fear. And what you see is hell, for fear is hell. All that is given you is for release. The sight, the vision, and the inner guide all lead you out of hell with those you love beside you, and the universe with them. Behold your role within the universe. To every part of true creation has the Lord of love and life entrusted all salvation from the misery of hell, and to each one has he allowed the grace to be a savior to the holy ones especially entrusted to his care. And this he learns when first he looks upon one brother as he looks upon himself, and sees the mirror of himself in him. Thus is the concept of himself laid by, for nothing stands between his sight and what he looks upon to judge what he beholds. And in this single vision does he see the face of Christ, and understands he looks on everyone as he beholds this one. For there is light where darkness was before, and now the veil is lifted from his sight.
Sorry about that, abrupt sound.
Was that the section in here?
Pardon me?
Was that something directly read?
That
from
was the Savior section, chapter, verses 1 through 8.
Okay.
Or not verses, paragraphs. Before hop in, I want to know what stuck out for you. What just when you heard it caught you? Go ahead.
Fear is hell.
Ooh, fear is hell. Yes. That is a big common theme in A Course in Miracles, isn't it?
The willingness to have, the idea of our willingness to let it be changed.
Our willingness to let it be changed. Absolutely. Throughout A Course in Miracles. And what I feel like this last chapter 31 does in a lot of ways is it's like the conclusion of a long essay. It says, here's what I taught you. Let me synthesize everything I taught you. And one of the things is throughout the little willingness, right? That change in our lives comes with a little willingness. What else?
Forgiving others is forgiving yourself.
Forgiving others is forgiving yourself. Yeah, we're going to go into that deeper as we go in. But again, another core theme of Course in Miracles, forgiveness. What else? Now that you heard that, how would you define Savior?
As your brother.
Could be as my brother. Could also be me,
I was gonna say so.
right? All of us have the ability to be the Savior for another. And we're going to go a little deeper into this, but the Savior is the one that brings the truth in the midst of darkness.
And that's how we are each other's saviors, because sometimes I'm in darkness and the other has the light and vice versa. I'm not consistently in the light. So it can alternate.
Exactly. We're on this pendulum that goes back and forth, light and dark and light and dark. When I'm on the dark side, I need someone to be my Savior. My daughter called me the other day and she was really overthinking something, and she literally started the conversation with, "Mom, tell me if I'm overthinking." I probably didn't need to hear the rest of the conversation and could have answered her yes. She went on to share everything she was thinking, and my answer was yes. But she needed Mom to just be a light, to say, yeah, those are things you could worry about. You could really worry about that, but there's really no validity to it, so why waste your energy? So in that moment, she knew who to call for the light. I think we all, hopefully all of us have in our lives someone we would say, when I need a little dose of sanity, this is who I reach out to, right? For me, a Savior is someone who can bring that dose of sanity in the midst of my insanity. Sometimes it is that person that's willing to say what I don't want to hear, right? Sometimes it's the person that's willing to live a different boundary than I've been able to handle and hold for myself, right? Sometimes what saves me are people's words, but most times what saves me and helps me see the light are people's actions, the way they live and present themselves in the world. So a lot of times we don't even know we're being a Savior when we're at the grocery store. How many of you people have the habit that I have of picking up conversations with people while you stand in line waiting to pay for your groceries? I'm not sure that it blesses anybody else, but it totally blesses me. And I get to meet some of the most interesting. Saturday, I guess that was yesterday, on Saturday, I had this big, tall motorcycle guy who was getting ready to go to Sturgis in front of me. And so we had a conversation about Sturgis. Learned a lot of things I didn't know. Very nice guy. But I learned a lot because I was willing. So in a lot of ways, we were each other's Savior just because we showed, he's in a biker club, right? Motorcycle club. Those have these negative connotations wrapped around them. Right? One of those labels of, ooh, scary. And oh my gosh, he was over 6 foot tall and he was big. And I'm not that big. And yet I wasn't scared at all. And here I was, this middle-aged grandma with a cart full of granola stuff, very healthy. And he was full of hamburgers and hot dogs and he didn't seem at all intimidated by having to talk to this grandma who he probably, I'm sure, thought was conservative. That joke is on him. But we were each other's savior in that moment. We enlightened each other. So as we go into the Savior's vision, I want you to hold that knowingness of Savior, right? Not the sacrificial lamb you may have been taught in the past. Right? Okay, let me move this so it's not in my way. So one of the things, I think I've said this in the past, but I love that A Course in Miracles really is a course. You can read it like a textbook. I've done a lot of school, so I've read a lot of textbooks. And when you read a textbook, one of the things I've learned is every freaking paragraph has something important. You better not skip it. Because if you skip and you skim, you're going to miss that detail that they hid in the middle of the third paragraph on the fourth page. And that's what you're going to get tested on. Fortunately, we are not going to be tested on A Course in Miracles. But A Course in Miracles is written, and you have to understand, it was written by someone who was a teacher, right? It was channeled and received. So it makes sense it was received in that curriculum structure. But within every paragraph, there could be a whole message. And so it's important to really look at it and recognize that each paragraph itself gives its own teaching. There is no way, even with 2 full periods, classes for us, that I could cover the entire content in those 15 paragraphs. Those 15 paragraphs could be a whole course by itself. So I selected core sentences in each paragraph for us to go deeper into. Not to negate what else is also in there, because there's a lot of deep richness. But that's what's on your handouts that you have. All right. So remember how I said I feel like this chapter is doing a synopsis of what we've learned in the past, all the way up through chapter 31. And so you'll see that the core teachings in this Savior's vision are actually really vital core concepts of what the Course in Miracles is here today to do. Learning is change. Concepts are needed while perceptions last. And changing concepts is salvation's task. Or it must deal in contrasts, not in truth, capital T, which has no opposite and cannot change. Salvation, again, another one of those, let me be saved from sin, right? And of course, in Miracles, the purpose of salvation is what? To change concepts. To change concepts is salvation's task. All of A Course in Miracles is not telling us how to fix ourselves. Right? It doesn't go out there and tell us we have to live a certain way to be the good people. And you'll see in other sections in this, it actually uses parenthetically the words good, bad, evil, because those are labels we give that are not divinely sanctioned labels, right? And so A Course in Miracles doesn't want us to do that, but it knows, our teacher knew in this channeling that if we were given a step of how-tos, we would turn them into a religious offering again. Just like every other how-to, 10 Commandments, the Torah, whatever, right? When we get a how-to, we turn it into a thou must. And so throughout A Course in Miracles, I said, no, I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you what's good and bad and anything indifferent. What I'm telling you is how you can think from the perspective of love or how you can think from the perspective of fear. And it's all a concept. There's a trick in this sentence that I want to really draw out, and it is the difference between concept and truth. Salvation is not about leading people to truth. Salvation is about teaching people how to think again. Okay, that's different than my version of salvation. Growing up Southern Baptist, evangelical, I was supposed to lead people to the Romans road, come to know Jesus so they could go to heaven. Course in Miracles says, no, what you're really doing is dealing with people's different perspectives, different concepts, and you're just helping people see that there are different ways to see what they're experiencing. Some that will lead them to hell, which is fear and anger and guilt, and some that will lead them to heaven, which is joy and happiness and contentment. But all of it, as long as we're on this planet, is my favorite word, illusion. Or, as I would say, delusion. Right? So this first step, this first core piece that the Savior's vision is helping us understand is that we are not evangelically intended to go out and become advocates for A Course in Miracles and beat people up with the Course in Miracles like someone might beat someone up with the Bible. We're not even intended to go out and change people's minds, hearts, or souls. We're just supposed to be what a teacher, which A Course in Miracles describes as a demonstrator, does, which is an expansion of the mind. Changing concepts. Raise your hand if you feel like you've ever used A Course in Miracles in an evangelical way. I know I did. When I first got into it, I was like, oh, this is the path. Let me go out and get someone on this path. Now, that was in 2008. So how many years later? 18 years later? I'm not an evangelical Course in Miracles teacher. Okay, thoughts on this concept? What's the difference between a concept and truth?
Well, concepts are learned, truth is given.
Okay, concepts are learned, truth is given. By whom?
The creator of truth.
Okay, by the creator of truth.
Well, we're talking about capital T truth, and that means it's unchanging versus concepts are based on our own perception.
Yes, exactly. So truth is always truth, never changing. Doesn't matter who it applies to, it's truth, it's truth, it's truth. Concepts, which is what everything we live by on earth really is, changes. I can remember a time when women could not wear pants, particularly not in church, right? I remember I didn't have a dress, and so I wore my school slacks to Sunday school, and I remember being sent home because I dressed like a boy. True story, right? That concept today, that was a form of godliness, how to look up, how to really respect God. Now people come in their shorts, their flip-flops, their whatever, right? Those are concepts. Truth, God is love, never changes. Never changes. So when you're going through A Course in Miracles now, because we're reading from the back, and you go back to the beginning, remember this, it's not asking you to overturn your whole world. It's offering you a new lens to look at things and to recognize that what you think, what you know, what you believe is not truth. Unless it is truth. God is love, right? All right. The next is to recognize the value we give to attack. Woo! This is a big one. You could not recognize your evil thoughts as long as you see value in attack. But should one brother dawn upon your sight as wholly worthy of forgiveness, then your concept of yourself is wholly changed. That's one sentence out of a whole paragraph. Can you imagine if we just went through the whole paragraph? Because there's a lot in here. The first aspect, which is of course the one that I highlighted, is you see value in attack. How many of you believe you see value in attack? I'm going to say we do it every day. I want to say we do it every day. I have hilarious example though, where Spirit really decided to highlight this for me this week. I am an eco advocate, really want the environment to survive us. Denver is on a 2 times a week watering restriction, right? But I live in Inglewood. So my property complex has been watering twice a day. Twice a day, no joke. So I reached out to the property manager. I said, I don't know why we've got these restrictions. Why are you doing this? No response. So finally I reached out to the county, and I am indignant. I'm like, really, this is far too much usage. This is out of compliance. My heart is so to save the world. Okay, I was attached to my ego perspective, right? I will admit it. But I saw it as a good thing. So I reached out to the county and I said, I don't know how to report this non-compliance, but can you tell me? And their response back was, in Inglewood, we do not have water restrictions, so the apartment complex is not out of compliance. I was like, Carla, you are wrong, right? And it doesn't matter what I feel about whether or not we should be watering twice a day. They have the right to water twice a day. I was valuing the attack. What was I valuing? I was valuing that my view that we should only be watering twice a week was more important than my apartment complex's right to water twice a day if they wanted to. My apartment manager could have responded back and said, we can water as much as we want, there are no restrictions. And she would have been holding on to her side of the attack, right? Thoughts? Linda?
That's a really good example because you're doing something that you think is good. Basically, you're just taking yourself away from the course. Yeah, I do that all the time. I saw something this week where some ICE guy arrested somebody at the airport, and I was out of the course for like a couple hours thinking about that.
Yeah, it's easy to see news bits or things and pick a side, right? Pick the right side, the good side. Yeah, I was writing today on some material I'm preparing for my Substack, and I was addressing being a good girl versus a bad girl. Those of you that don't know, I've been writing for years a segment called The Good Girl Gone Bad for Enlightenment, right? So what was a good girl and what was a bad girl? And sometimes, depending on the environment I'm in, they shift, right? And so we read media through our lens and then make one side right, one side wrong. That's a great example of that. Any other insights? Okay, the other piece I want us to capture here that is just really like quietly in there. Should one brother be wholly forgivable to you, then your concept of yourself is wholly changed, right? How many times do we hear people say, forgive yourself? Just forgive yourself, just forgive yourself. Until I can forgive others, I can't forgive myself. Because I don't want to forgive myself. Because if I forgive myself, then I have to forgive them. And I don't want to forgive them. So I can't forgive myself. If I could wholly see Matt, who's a very dear friend that I love and just have treasured our relationship, if I could wholly see him, completely forgive means I correctly perceive him as the innocent, whole, loving being that he is. Then he and I, by me doing that, he and I would both stand in total wholeness. Matt, my friend, I do not fully forgive you. Because I don't fully forgive me. I know I'm not fully forgiving him. There's something about him I don't perceive correctly. Who knows what it is? I'm not going to go dive into it. because I have more love in our relationship than I could anything else, right? But the truth is, even though he's a good friend for over a decade, I don't know, I know that I don't perceive him fully correctly. That's why little nuances like that are so important for us to understand. I'm never going to forgive myself. Literally, never going to be able to forgive myself. Which is to correctly perceive myself and see myself as what God created me to be. Until I am willing to take, it says one brother. It just really says I only have to do it with one. I don't have to do it with the whole world. So if I could just do it right here with Matt, and you would think that would be easy. We have so much fun together. We have great dialogues together. So why can't I just fully perceive you 100% as the magnificence that you are? That's for a whole nother therapy session, right? But that's the reality of what this is telling us, is even those people that are our closest, dearest loved ones, we don't wholly see them this way.
And that's how we value attack. It's one of the
that's
subtle ways that we value attack.
That's right. That's one of the subtle ways we value attack.
Because I think that part of the point that the Course makes is that since attack and guilt are intimately tied to one another, that there's the statement in the Course about in no single instant does the body even exist.
Yes.
And the reason we see the body is because we value guilt, AKA we value attack, and we overlook this instant.
Yes, exactly. So the body itself is an illusion we value. And because we haven't figured out how to get out of that illusion, we're still carrying it around.
And that in itself is an attack on the truth.
Exactly. Exactly. How did you feel about the word attack? When you hear that word, what does it make you feel? Honestly.
Makes sense to me.
Makes sense?
Just feels
Okay.
like a constriction.
Like a constriction,
Freezing, yeah.
like something breaking maybe.
Yeah, like a barrier.
It's like a barrier, okay? Shows up as a barrier. The first time I read attack, which was not today, first time I read attack, I remember getting a visceral experience to it. Like it made me want to throw up. Because I was like, that's not me. Now, mind you, this was 2008. I'm a much different person and much more self-aware. But back then I was the cheerleader. I was everyone's best fan. And there was no way I could attack anyone. I was too nice. And I literally had a visceral, like, oh, that can't be me. Yeah.
I mean, now it's more familiar for most of us in this room because we've heard it before, but similar to you, when I first heard some of the language in A Course in Miracles, like attack, murder, it's like, WTF? No. No. Like, no, thank you. That is not in my language. But when you understand it the way that the Course teaches it, and you start getting honest with yourself, you realize that, I mean, I still won't use the word murder, even just saying it makes me sick, but accepting that in our minds, like you said, we have these thoughts, probably more than we even want to admit.
Yeah.
And we'll just brush them aside, or maybe try to, oh, it's fine, I'm not saying it out loud, or I'm not acting on it, or I'm not, but in our minds, we still are.
One of the passages in the Bible that I also had a problem with says, if you think on a sin, you've committed that sin, right? And so this is kind of what the Course in Miracles is also saying, right? It's like, it's what's sitting there with you. But the gifter of A Course in Miracles is such a smart psychologist. If I saw your behaviors and I said, that's not really nice. Yeah, probably not. But you'd go on and you'd not care. Most people would. Just kind of take it with a grain. Yeah, not everything I do is nice, but I'm a pretty good person. At the other hand, if I said, you are attacking people. Oh, wait, let me stop. Well, I understand I'm not always nice, but I never attack people.
At least not first.
At least not first, right? Exactly right, Matt. I just don't attack people. And that's what A Course in Miracles is really trying to slap us out of the delusion of our mediocre mentality, where everything kind of has this gentle neutrality. A Course in Miracles doesn't let you be gently neutral anymore. It says, you're either a savior or you're a murderer, right? That's what it says, basically, as you go through. I know Gentry doesn't like the word murderer.
Still don't like
I didn't necessarily like it when I read it either. But that's really kind of, it's really trying to give us the drastic contrast, because there's this line from black to white where it grays, right? Black is here, white's here, and it goes grayer and grayer. And when you get to this neutral point, it's mud, right? The reality is, Course in Miracles is saying it's not gray. You're either living from love or you're living from fear. And let me show you. And when you're living from fear, you automatically are living from attack. And when you're living from love, you automatically are demonstrating the path of a savior. It's that clear cut. Great psychology. Great psychology. Any other thoughts on this before we move on to the next?
I think it's really helpful to see, oh, I'm afraid and I'm attacking.
Yes.
I never made that connection. I didn't feel attacked.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things we also don't recognize is so many things that we have within us that we don't recognize are aspects of fear, right? When I judge myself better at something than someone else, right? I love AI, so we'll use that as an example. I'm AI savvy, someone's never used AI. Actually, there's an underlying fear there that we're in a competition. I'm on the pioneering forefront. This person's lagging behind. Why? Because I want to be ahead. Why would I want to be ahead? Because I have an underlying fear that I will become invisible, I won't be accepted, I won't be magnificent, whatever the underlying fear is. And so that is a form of attack, right there. See how deep this psychology can take you. All right, thanks for that. Oops. Seeing beyond the body, another core theme of Course in Miracles. In terms of concepts, it is thus you see him more than just a body, for the good is never what the body seems to be. By focusing upon the good in him, the body grows decreasingly persistent in your sight. That is the most confusing sentence on the planet. I had to go through it twice. I said, what the heck? By focusing on the good in him, which is not the body stops being important to you. Right? We live in a world where the body is the first thing we pay attention to. Tell me when you go into a room full of strangers, you don't look for the person that looks like the nicest, the friendliest, has a smile on their face. Do you go to the person standing in the corner like this, frowning? Obviously doesn't want to connect? Yeah. If you do, you are a sucker for pain. But that's everywhere we go. We use the body as an indicator. Until we learn, which of course in miracles is asking us to learn, to recognize that you are not that body. You are not that body. You are not that body. How tall are you? Yeah,
Oh, 6'1".
6'1". Matt, how tall are you?
Just under 6.
Okay, because I was like in my head, I'm like, which one's taller? Because I wanted to pick on the tallest one in the room. Isaac.
Yes.
Okay.
Remember.
Last week I said it wrong, so I was like, just second guessing. So Isaac is 6'1". I have heels on, okay, so I'm a little, but that's here, right? And if we walked down the block, I'm betting people would see him before they saw me. Right? They'd notice him. They'd see us as different. And yet, last week or 2 weeks ago, Isaac and I sat and had this phenomenal conversation at a fellowship where it was like, wow, we have so much in common, it's unbelievable. And so suddenly, as I'm sitting talking to him, I literally got into this transcendental place where I couldn't have, if I hadn't met him before our conversation, I probably would have walked out the door and not been able to describe him. Because his body disappeared, we were now connecting heart to heart, spirit to spirit, and I was seeing the good in him, the truth of him, of who he is. And if you haven't had time to chat with him, please, you're going to love it. The good in him is not the gorgeous body he carries, right? It is what's under that, what's deep and inside. And that's what A Course in Miracles throughout is trying to get us to learn how to do, is stop letting the body be a barrier. Any thoughts on that? Gentry, speak up a little bit, please.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what you were sharing at the beginning about interactions with people and having unexpected conversations. When I was driving for Uber and Lyft for 3.5 years, so many times, the scariest or the most, unsightly looking people, I have the most incredible conversations with. People who come out of incarceration, who were in recovery, who, all kinds of things. And I didn't feel unsafe because we were speaking, like you said, spirit to spirit.
Yes.
And having real conversations about life lessons and what we've been through and where we're going and who we want to help because of those changes in our lives. And
did you find yourself finding more sameness between you?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It didn't matter color, race, size, the number of tattoos. I mean, met amazing people. And
Yeah.
I think that was the greatest gift in those experiences for me.
Oh, I loved Lyft driving. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
it for about 2 years too. And Gentry was saying, for those of you that couldn't hear, that as she was Lyft driving, she got to meet so many different people that came in different bodies, but shared the same experiences or similar experiences. And really, as we are willing to open to people, we explore that and we find that. Now, would you mind bringing me my phone? I realize I don't have anything up here. Tell me what time it is. Lisa, did you have something you were wanting to say?
You saw my thought bubbles. I was just thinking back to when I lived in San Francisco, and there was this guy at a bar he was very tall. He was covered in tattoos, like half the face covered. And my friend, who was just, we haven't talked in a while, she's not the nicest person, and she was like, God, he looks so bad. So I was like, I'm gonna go up and talk to him because that's my thing. I was like, if she hates him, I'm gonna say hi. It turns out he's from Sweden, which I am too, so then we start talking. He's like the nicest guy ever. You know, he's like describing, like, he's like, my first tattoo was this little, like, spade on his hand. He's like, it just grew from there. And I'm like, why did she just have to focus on the physical appearance like that? Like, it was so disrespectful to me. And I'm like, he has a soul and like a personality, and he's so much more than that. And yeah, I was just thinking about that, like how we're so much more than our bodies.
Thank you for sharing that story. I love that. You know, growing up, tattoos were a sin. How dare you mark your body? I don't have any tattoos. I'm not going to come out as some biker woman with a sleeve of tattoos you just hadn't seen. But both of my daughters are walking works of art. and they seem to grow weekly. Mom, I got this new tattoo. Wait till you see it. Then I get the picture and it's all the bloody version that they just got. And it's like, okay, show it to me in a week when the scab's gone, because I can't tell what that is. But they put themselves through that, right? But as I was going through my early years, I thought of someone with a tattoo as evil and scary. I had to unlearn that. And then here I am today. I have more friends who are significantly tattooed than I have those that are not, right? It's just the change of our world. And so if I had not been able to open myself to that, maybe they're not bad because they have a tattoo, I would have lost a whole lot of love. Whole lot of love. I have one friend that literally, I don't know if he has a spot on his body except the bottom of his feet that isn't tattooed. And like you were saying, Lisa, the guy you spoke to, he's the most amazing, beautiful, he's a yoga teacher, right? But he's a walking art piece. And every tattoo has its story, right? And so that also tells about who he is and why he got this one and why he got that one. But I would have never found that if I was stuck on the body, because the body would have scared me away. Forgiveness changes you. A lot of times we say, I could never forgive that person for yada, 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 whatever. If it could have happened to a woman in the past, it probably has happened in my life. I've had an interesting life. And I can honestly say, I have not forgiven anyone 100%. You first say that. At the same time, I have forgiven all those that would be considered my violators, to the point that I can view them now without a trigger and with love. But I still don't correctly perceive them. So I wouldn't say I have forgiven 100%. But what I know is that forgiveness is not for them, it's for me. You live in that world just as much as this. So the real world and the illusionary world, from the previous paragraph, I was talking about the real world. For both are concepts of yourself, which can be interchanged but never jointly held. I cannot hold both the illusion about myself and the truth about myself at the same time. I cannot live in two worlds at the same time. Now, maybe there's just a nanosecond between the two different worlds, but there's a difference in time, right? For your forgiveness offered to him, and of course, Course in Miracles was written a long time ago, that's them, anyone, he, she, it doesn't matter, has been accepted now for both of you. For both of you. So as I grow in my forgiveness of Matt, getting to see and know him better, perceive him more correctly, identifying the areas maybe I'm still holding an old knowing of Matt. Because Matt and I met, I want to say 2012, I think, and he and I have both changed a lot in that period of time. We both discovered new things, new passions, knew a lot of stuff. But I know things about him from then that if I'm still counting them as who he is today, I could be way off. Right? Matter of fact, I can think of some things that I know he believed back then that he doesn't believe now, just because I know, right? And so part of forgiving someone, accepting someone, is even releasing the past, even if it was a good, loving past. That's the hard part of forgiveness. Forgiveness is about correct perception. And sometimes correct perception actually means we have to let go of the glorious illusions. This was my best first kiss. This was the best meal I ever ate in my life. This was the best partner I ever had. This person was the most loving person I ever met, right? Well, in that instant, in that moment, that might have been true. But fast forward a week, it's not necessarily still true. And so part of what's hard in forgiveness is having to correctly perceive the truth of now and drop all the illusions, even the happy illusions we really like.
You're bringing up something my daughter shared with me. I'm wondering, in that transition of it used to be really good and now it's not, I feel like there's a grieving process I see it in my daughter grieving the loss of the person that her dad used to be,
Okay.
that he's not anymore. I'm just trying to conceptualize this, that for her, there is a grieving process in losing that person that shaped her.
I think that's absolutely correct. I say it as a counselor, but I also say it through the lens of A Course in Miracles. Forgiveness does require grievance, because forgiveness requires the loss of something,
Okay.
right? It requires the loss of my belief. It requires the loss of my angst. It requires the loss of who I was then. It does have a loss aspect to it. But correctly perceiving someone, I've had some significant abuse in my life, but one of them was really substantial. And as I was going through what I call treasure hunting in the trauma, one of the things I learned about this person was his own childhood. And as I learned about his childhood, I could see how I had the experience I did with him. And then my heart broke for him. Right? I said, wow, not making his action right, but recognizing his action actually made total sense based on where it came from and what he experienced. Right? That's an act of forgiveness right there. Just expanding our knowing and our awareness about something. It's not total absolute forgiveness, it's an act. Forgiveness is an ever evolving process. It's not a one and done. Okay? It's not I forgive you, Matt, and now I forever forgive you. It's Matt, I forgive you for sneezing in the middle of my presentation. Right? Yeah.
That's exactly the idea that's been going through my mind for the last several minutes. One of those key ideas from A Course in Miracles is buried in the middle of some paragraph somewhere is the idea of complete forgiveness, which is kind of going back to the first point that you made, but that goes in hand with the idea that forgiveness is a process. It's a process that we practice.
That's right.
And I'm thinking back to a particular person that I had been willing to forgive. And I've declared that, I'm willing to see the face of Christ in this person, but
Right.
I still do not see it. And now I understand that's because I have not yet completely forgiven them.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Matt. Well, first of all, I'm going to say you started at the first step, which was willingness, right? I'm willing to forgive. And then you recognize that you still have not fully perceived them. There's still a lot hidden about them that you don't know. And there's still a lot hidden about every one of us. I think Matt's the one I've known the longest in here. But each of you, I know varying levels, but I know I don't know all about your lives. Right? Okay. And notice that the forgiveness offered to him. A lot of times it's really hard for us to forgive ourselves because we can't even see what maybe we're ill perceiving about ourselves until we forgive it in someone else. Oh, I forgive that person for using the wrong word. I used to be an editor. So I used to read Facebook posts and edit them in my mind. It's like, I had to get to the point where it's like, this is social media. No one's going to use proper English. And now if you look at my Facebook posts, you would never believe I was an editor. And I go back and I'm like, Carla, that's really poor grammar, right? But at the time when this was coming to my awareness, I worked in advertising. I was the QA. So everything had come through me before it could go out the door. I was really good about finding every little nit and nat and every word that I thought shouldn't be used the way it was. And our copywriter and I got in so many arguments because he violated every English language rule. And I'd go back to him and I'd say, you have to fix this. This is grammatically incorrect. And he'd say, Carla, I'm a copywriter. And I'd say, this is grammatically incorrect. No, we would do this. We were both in our 20s and both of us very hard-headed. One day, I came back to a picture of me with a swastika on my forehead. And I had no doubt who put that on my desk. Had absolutely no doubt. So I'm like, oh my God. I run to my mentor, who's the vice president, show this to her, and I'm in tears. And she says, you have two choices. You can get him fired, because this would definitely get him fired. Or you can figure out why he feels that way. And you might grow through it. She made me go home and think about it before deciding, so I did. And it was a Friday, so I came back on Monday in a much different mindset, because I spent that weekend saying, why could someone believe this of me? And then I looked at all our interactions. I was like, ah. So I literally on Monday, I went to him and I said, hey, can we have a conversation at lunch? I said, this hurt like heck. Didn't use the word heck. But I really do want to understand why you perceive me this way, because I know you do perceive me this way. And you know, I am so proud of those 20-something us, because we actually had a constructive conversation. And he said, you always bring me correction without praise. There's nothing about how it sounds good, looks good. It's always fix this nit. Do I ever send anything out you like? I was like, oh. Because I believed he was a brilliant copywriter. He had no idea I believed he was a brilliant copywriter. That moment changed my whole trajectory in life. Believe me, that control freak has been rooted out. But it was through me forgiving him who had offended me. And I could have had him fired, and he was a father with 2 kids. Friday, I could have had him fired. But on Monday, I wanted to know more about it. That's what the switch of mind, right? That's what forgiveness does. It takes us to a place where we really just want to understand you more. And then as I understand you more, I am going to know me differently too. Makes sense? Any thoughts before we move on from this one? Willingness is enough. We're going to go through this one pretty quick because I'm going to catch up some time. And Matt actually referenced this. Have faith in him who walks with you. Oh, that's a big one. Have faith in him who walks with you, so that your fearful concept of yourself can change. And all this shift requires is that you be willing to let this happy change occur. All you need is that little willingness throughout. Of course, in miracles, we hear about the little willingness. Have faith in him who walks with you. Does not mean leave your purse standing in the middle of the grocery store and don't expect anyone to steal it. Okay, that's not what that means. There's another word for that than faith. It might start with the letter F. I'll let you put the rest of the words together. However, having faith in another person is recognizing they're having a human journey just like I am. I have faith that every one of you are going to act exactly like you. Your upbringing, your training, your belief systems, your concepts. But at the core, you're another spirit like me having a human experience. So I trust that we're all having this experience together. And we're all having our unique taste of it on purpose at this time together. You are all here because it was your divine appointment. Those who were not here, didn't get the invitation or didn't accept it, right? Doesn't make them bad or good. They're equally human, taking a spiritual journey through a human body. And that's what it means to have faith in that person beside you. At their core, they are equally exactly as God created them. That beautiful core of them has gotten layers and layers of life on earth added. And what you're seeing are the layers, not the light, not the reality of who they are, right? So have faith that even inside every one of those beings, even the person you hate the most, there is a glimmer of God light. That's what that means. That everyone has. And you don't have to think that instantly. You need to have the willingness to be able to get there. Does that make sense? Any thoughts? Ginger, go first.
I feel like I could talk about this for days. This topic, I feel like how do I say this? I keep telling myself, I feel like I accidentally hacked the Matrix because, but more spiritual way of saying
You
this.
hacked the Matrix,
The
is that what you said?
Matrix, right, because, I mean, this is a more spiritual way of saying that, and this number 5, but ultimately, you know, when it comes to releasing the fear and having faith, it's not always about, well, I don't know if this is really gonna work out, or just letting go. And I've experienced that so many times throughout this year where I just said, okay, like, show me the way, like, I don't know, and just let go of the outcome, and something better every time shows up.
Yeah.
Every single time, and it's just like, how is this happening? Is this real? But it's kind of fun too, because, you know, it just shows that you don't have to fully believe it, just releasing the outcome and releasing the fear, and anything's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me, I'm gonna pull, I realized I don't have Facebook up, and I see Matt looking at something, so I was like, let me just hop in and have our Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube up. Anna's on with us. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Anna says, we are not our body. Greeting, RMMC, mighty companions. I miss you all. I'm loving hearing the truth through God's Carla. Thank you, sweetheart. Hi, Greg, who says, Ola, mighty companions. And anyone else on there that hasn't commented, welcome, welcome. So yes, I think that one of the things A Course in Miracles tells us is it's not telling us anything new. It's encapsulating what we know at some level and bringing it to awareness. So yes, there are lots of times in our lives where we probably had to be brought to this point of willingness. Sometimes through words of wisdom, and sometimes through falling on our knees because we went through a trauma that we are willing to never experience again, right? Absolutely. You can see yourself another way. You can see yourself another way. Alternatives are where?
Your mind.
In your mind to use. And you can see yourself another way. Would you not rather look upon yourself as needed for salvation of the world instead of as salvation's enemy? So I'm either your savior or I'm your enemy. That sounds drastic. But like I said, A Course in Miracles wants us to really think in those dichotomies. Love or fear? Savior or enemy? I'm on your side or I'm attacking you. Because if I don't see the starkness of what I'm doing, and I do it all. There is nothing in A Course in Miracles that it didn't smack me upside the head 207,000 times, right? I can't look at any of it and say, oh, I mastered that one. I have increased in my skill in all of those areas. I have mastered them. Otherwise, you would not be seeing me here right now. I would be in La La Land somewhere else, right? So what this is really asking us to recognize is that A Course in Miracles, and like I said, this chapter is really like a summative chapter. So it's trying to get us to understand. I've been trying to get you to understand this. Do you understand there's an alternative in your mind? You don't have to look outside yourself for the answer. You don't have to go find the next guru. You don't have to find the next, health practitioner. You don't have to go find the next coach who will teach you how to. That perfect answer, that beautiful alternative on how to see yourself is actually in your own mind. It's in your own mind. This section will talk about how changing your mind is usually swapping one illusion for another, right? It's not generally swapping illusion for truth, because most of us have not grasped truth to its truest level. But sometimes we're choosing one illusion that was painful for another, maybe more kind illusion. It doesn't have quite so much pain and maybe has more awareness woven into it. Of Course in Miracles is not asking us to perfect our minds. It's asking us to protect our minds. Okay, to really look, well, what are you thinking? Well, you can choose a different thought. It's right there in your mind. Look, look, look. There's that thought that actually feels good. I can choose that thought instead. That's what the whole Course in Miracles is about, teaching us how to choose these alternatives that are in our minds. Any thoughts? Yeah, Matt, go for it.
Well, one of the alternatives that's in our mind is a different perspective that's coming from apparently somebody else. And when I'm willing to give up my rigid, fixed perception or concept about something and hear it from somebody else, that's one of the ways that alternatives are in my mind.
Yes, exactly. Just listening to other people. Like that experience that I shared from my advertising days, right? I could have stayed right in my mind and said, no one should harm me like this. Or I could expand. And I did get alternative ways to see myself. Not necessarily alternative things I wanted to see, but they were actually accurate about me. I mean, back then I was a perfectionist on steroids. Control freak with a capital C and a capital F, right? I just knew how to do things according to the rules and do them right. And there was so much rigidity that I could not flow with life in a loving way. So I lived in fear of breaking a rule. Oh, since then I've broken a lot of rules, right? And I found a lot of freedom, and I found a lot of self-acceptance, and I have a much vaster love network because there aren't so many people outside my narrow window. And that's really what this is telling us, is that the more we're willing to look for that alternative in our mind, doesn't mean I can't ask for someone else's perspectives, but really the answer that you need is always inside you. Hey, put your glasses on. Now, we're going to have a little fun. There's a scorecard, but we're not going to take time for the scorecard to save some time. And as soon as everyone has their glasses on, I will change to the next slide. And then I'm going to ask you to please, when I give instructions, don't cheat and try to see without your glasses, because we will only mess up your experience. All right, not my glasses. There we go. All right, raise your hand if the word fear is black or brownish, muddy. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So we have Heather and we have Jeanette. Raise your hand if the left side is clearer than the right side. Okay, okay. Raise your hand if you think fear, peace, and unity are basically the same color. Okay? Raise your hand if you think unity is brown. Okay? Raise your hand if you think peace is orange. Okay? Now, I'm going to encourage you to take just a minute and change glasses with someone without looking at the screen so that you get a different experience. So Carol and Matt change glasses, change out glasses, try not to look at the screen until you get your new glasses on. Okay, same questions. Fear. Who has fear as black or brown? Yeah. All right. Who sees the right side over here more clearly than the left side? Okay. Who thinks peace is orange? Okay. Who thinks unity is brown? Okay, well, wait a minute. You all had different hands raised for different things.
They're the same.
It's all, yes, you have very light glasses. So Chris has on a pair of light colored glasses that don't seem to be changing the color.
I have a different one than.
And so take your glasses off
I
now
tried three
and look
different
at what it
glasses.
actually looks like.
Say again, please.
Take your glasses off and look at what it actually looks like. All right, are those the colors you saw behind your glasses?
Yeah.
Those were the colors you saw?
Yeah.
No, they couldn't be. Because, did you see a white screen? If you didn't see a white screen, those aren't the colors you saw.
They're not too far off.
They're not too far off. So see, that's where a lot of times we get our perceptions. We think, oh, my perception's not too far off from the truth. Well, but it's not the truth. If I sent this to a printer and I used your color scheme, it would not print the right colors, right? We tend, especially as we get more in our spiritual paths, to believe that we are close enough to God's vision that we see things true. None of you, even if it seemed like you could see it clearly, saw it as it truly is. But the darker your lens was, especially if it had deep red, deep blue, or deep green in it, the colors changed. That was like seeing fear, which is red, as black. Sometimes the labels we wear, the perceptions we wear are so dense, we see something different than everyone else around us. Perspectives on that before we move to the paragraph? Yeah, Linda.
I mean, have you ever like talked about a memory with someone?
Yes.
They're so different. Yeah.
That's a great example. None of us remember anything the same way. Right? I have 4 siblings, and all 4 of us grew up in the same household, and all 4 of us have a different description of that household. And the boys definitely have a different description than the girls. Right? And so it is different. All of us have a different lens that we see the life through. And the more we're willing to change glasses, to try on each other's glasses, to see what it looks like with those glasses, at the end, I'm going to leave this up. And I'm going to encourage you to find the different colors of glasses and see. And really to register into your mind, edutainment gives you things you can keep in your mind going forward, right? What color are my glasses today, right? Okay. Your self-concept is a barrier. The concept of the self stands like a shield, a silent barricade before the truth. And I believe probably in the book that truth is probably capitalized, and hides it from your sight. All that is given you is for release. The sight, the vision, and the inner guide all lead you out of hell. Hey, I hate to tell you guys, we're all in hell. We're all in hell. We're all experiencing our version of hell. You see me, right? If you watch me on social media, I'll always say, I'm in the middle of hell, whoa, right? Because sometimes it feels like that. But what this is saying is that experience of hell is directly linked to my self-concept. It's directly linked to my self-concept. When I was a Southern Baptist youth minister, I saw myself as a very good girl. And I was going to heaven because I had done all the right things. And I'll tell you, in my 20s, I was actually a lot braver about some things because I felt like I was covered, right? Once saved, always saved is a theme that goes through Christianity, right? So I was covered. No matter what I did going forward, I was forgiven. Fast forward to being shaken in my spiritual life a little bit and landing on my knees and having God tell me literally, throw away all your beliefs and come into your way of knowing. And I was really like, really, all my beliefs? Yes. And that had me then understand that I am 100% accountable. See, I thought I was covered. I'd accepted Jesus and now I could do whatever I wanted in life, but I was going to end up in heaven on the end. And then I come into this world that says heaven and hell exist on this planet, and you're 100% responsible for which one you're experiencing in this now moment. Let that settle. Earlier it said I cannot be in two places at the same time. I cannot be in hell and heaven at the same time. But on this life journey, I could have hell experiences and I could have heaven experiences. I can say at this point in my life, thank goodness, I have far more heaven experiences than hell experiences, but I still have them. And it's my self-concept that's the barrier. My self-concept is the glasses I see the world through. You know, am I the good girl or am I the bad girl? What's the label I'm wearing today? Whatever label, I'm the mom. I'm the good mom. I'm the bad mom. My kids hate me. My kids love me. You know, my parents love me. Whatever I see, that's how I create. Because when I was in Christianity, breaking a rule was hell. I was afraid I break a rule, I'm in hell. And now, I know that breaking the rules, taboo busting, has brought me to some of the greatest heights of heaven. Right? I don't have any barriers. I don't care what someone's faith belief is. They can still be dear to my heart. Whereas in Christianity, if they weren't Christians, I shouldn't be hanging out with them. Oh my gosh. That would take out more than 2/3 of my love network now. Right? So expanding your self-concept brings you positively, brings you more opportunities for heaven and fewer hell opportunities. Thoughts? Yeah.
So I feel like for me personally, when I'm more in self, that means I'm isolating myself from everyone and everything. So therefore, it's impossible for me to have interpersonal relationships with people, places, or things. And that's when I feel disconnected mostly. I believe for me personally, when I get out of self and I look more at the similarities or hanging out with people who don't necessarily believe what I believe. I wouldn't say it challenges me, it helps me grow to see things from like a different perspective or a different reality. Because my reality is only based off of my experiences from the past as opposed to someone else's experiences. Like you said, the girls had a different experience from being raised compared to, the brothers. I think that, is that what this kind of?
Yeah, it is. And I want to speak to something that you brought out that I meant to speak on, so I'm thankful for that. And it's that word self, right? Throughout A Course in Miracles, it will use lowercase self and higher case self. And I'm going to have more heavenly experiences when I'm viewing myself from my higher self concept. than my lower self-concepts, right? My higher self-concept reminds me I'm innocent, I'm free, I'm exactly as God created me. Wacky, wild, real, right? My limited self-confidence and concept could say, Carla, remember, you're too much in some places. See the distinction? Thank you for bringing that up. That was very good. Any other comments? All right. Paragraph 8. Laying aside your self-concept. I haven't done this. I don't know that any of us have, but this is where we're being led to go. And this he learns when first he looks upon one brother as he looks upon himself and sees the mirror of himself in him. Thus is the concept of himself laid by, and in this single vision does he see the face of Christ. I did the Namaste principle of A Course in Miracles, I don't know, a few months back, and we talked about this, how I am in you and you are in me, and what's in all of us is Christ, or the higher self, the highest consciousness. Some people get caught up on the Christ, thinking Jesus Christ, but the Christ is our higher right mind, our higher self, that intelligence that we all share, the higher mind. But again, remember, it's saying, when he looks upon a brother and sees the mirror of himself, we get so stuck in trying to do introspection, spending so much time looking into myself. Did I need to fix this? Do I need to do that? The greatest and fastest way to heal your mind is to look that way. Observe others. What are they struggling with? Oh, I've had that struggle too. How do I deal with that struggle? Oh, I remember when I thought like that. My youngest is 27, and she is right now kind of the type A on turbo that I used to be. And she's in school full-time, she's working full-time, she has a full-time living partner. She's like full-time to the max on everything. And she is always high stress, and when we talk like this, and she says all these things, and oh, Mom, did you know, and Mom, did you know, and I capture about a third of what she actually says, because there's so much tension, and it's all coming vomiting out, because we only have 15 minutes to talk, and then it'll be another 2 weeks before we connect. Whew. And I look at her, and I have the wisdom. Took me a while to get this wisdom. I have the wisdom not to try to fix her, but to recognize that that is a 26, soon to be 27-year-old, 27 to be 28-year-old version of me. I can absolutely see how I was like that when I was her age, but I could still see parts of it in me. It's like, dang it, I still have that overthinking tendency, right? So when I look out and I take them into me, it's a lot faster, a lot easier than trying to go intensively and intrusively into my wounds and try to figure out what past life trauma caused this behavior in me. Doesn't matter what caused this behavior in me. I have this behavior. And I have in my mind, back a couple of sentences, right? I have in my mind an alternative. And I could tap into that alternative. And the way those alternatives expand is by me seeing myself mirrored through everyone. Yeah, thoughts, comments? Yeah, Linda.
Lately, whenever I feel like I'm judging something, or even people, obviously, but also like things in the world. Like I was driving yesterday and noticed there was a lot of trash everywhere. It's kind of bumming me out. I try to say, I forgive us.
Ooh, I forgive us. I love that.
Because it's forgiving the people that throw the trash or the people that I'm condemning, but also I feel like I'm condemning them more if I say I forgive you. But if I say I forgive us, then it encompasses that I've done all that same stuff that I'm projecting.
I love that, Linda. That's a beautiful distinction. So what Linda said is that when she sees herself judging an experience or someone, she's translated that now within herself to I forgive us. And I think that is so accurate, because if I forgive you, I forgive you is a power overstatement. You've done something wrong, and I'm taking the higher stand, and I'm forgiving you. That is the old version of forgiveness. Of Course in Miracles forgiveness is, I correctly perceive you and me. That's what forgiveness means in A Course in Miracles. I correctly perceive you and me. So I forgive us means I see us both better. I love that. Thank you. Any other thoughts? So we're winding down, and I just want to kind of wrap it up before we go into doing the offering and announcements. I really, for those of you that have been in A Course in Miracles long enough that you're like, how's the story end? I really do encourage you to go read all of chapter 31. And then start A Course in Miracles over with that knowing. Because it's funny and phenomenal how when you have the keys that are in 31, that you can go back through A Course in Miracles and see things so differently. Now, if you were brand new in Course in Miracles and read 31, there might be some things you find startling and you don't believe. That's okay. The instructions at the very beginning of Course in Miracles says exactly that. There might be things that are so startling you cannot believe. You might analyze them, you might judge them. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But they're going to expand you. They're going to expand you. Chris.
I have to say something. I found the course, and my husband was a very good husband, you know, he would never say you can do this or can't do this, whatever. And one day when he looked into the course, and he said, and I've shared this, I'm the Holy Son of God, you know. And we were Catholic at the time. I was raised that way. He says, that's blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, not to me. And he left me alone.
Yes.
And he joined me later on, and some friends said, no, he was running this course.
Yeah.
You know, we were in Albuquerque, and we had a group at home, and we joined everybody, and it was,
Yeah, well, imagine the trajectory Rudy was on, right? Catholic, you said, right? Catholic, where everything's a sin and guilt is number one. To A Course in Miracles, it says there is no sin and you don't need to be guilty either. That's a growth curve. I mean, come on. The fact that he made it is a miracle, right?
not to me.
Yes.
I wasn't raised Catholic. I changed because of him, although he never asked.
Yeah.
I was Lutheran. I was Catholic. Unity, course, now still learning.
Yeah, I tell people if they ask me what my label is, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm omni-spiritual. I don't know. If you need a label, I'm omni-spiritual. Because really, as we grow in our awareness, a label doesn't fit. Right? I dare each of you to try to figure out what your label is. I've been trying to do it for the last 2 weeks because I have to write this darn about me thing for a writer's profile. How do I describe what I am? So the term I use is spiritual maverick. It's like, I'm a spiritual maverick. And so you're right. I mean, we all do those journeys, and that is what this is all about. All right, we're going to send. I'll leave this up later so you can run around and play with it. For those of you that are online, if you would love to give a gift, it is rmmc-acim.org donation. You can do Venmo, you can do Zelle. Also here, thank you all for your gifts. We appreciate it, especially during the summertime, because there is offerings go down. There is a QR code in the basket that's going around, Isaac, that would also help. announcements. So today is one of the few days that we don't have a class this afternoon going on in the library. So we do have food. Carol's over there preparing it, but we're gonna eat in the cooler library, okay? So we will need some help to bring a table over there, and the small table, so we can put some food on it. And then for those of you that knew Patrick Hale, and Patrick was a good friend of many of ours, today is his celebration of life at 3:00. If you have not heard about the celebration of life, which is being held at a friend's community center, come see myself or Matt and we can give you that information. The board meeting was moved to August 23rd because of all the traveling, etc. If you have anything you want to raise for the board to take into consideration, please get it to one of us. Carol, Matt, myself, Anna, and Lori are the board members. Next week's the third week. I'm going through my head the calendar. I don't think until the fourth week. We don't have anything going on. The fourth week of the month is normally when Awakening Through Movies would be, which would be the 22nd. But again, due to travel, I can't remember where George Sweeney and his wife are going, but somewhere fun. It's going to actually be the 29th. So if you have it on your calendar as the fourth week this month, it won't be. It's going to be on the 29th, so you can definitely join on that. Let me check and see if Anna wrote anything in here I need to capture. The sound is great. Thank you, Anna. We always struggle with the sound. All right. All right. It was good to see everyone that came. Thank you, Anna and Greg, from joining from afar. All right. What I would love to hear before we step out of the door is one word that you can take with you that encapsulates what you really felt in today's teaching. One word. Popcorn it.
Mirror.
I heard someone say something, but I didn't hear it.
Mirror.
Mirror. Mirror.
Grace.
What was that?
Grace.
Grace.
Learning is change.
Learning is change.
Perspective.
Perspectives.
Identification.
Identification.
Hope.
Hope.
Peace.
Peace. My hope is that as you look at this, and of course the video will be online, anyone who wants any of this content, come see me. Really that you would recognize that A Course in Miracles is always inviting us to greater freedom. Greater freedom, right? And that's, so when you read it, as you experience it, don't use it as a guilt trip. Oh, I'm not as open-minded and loving as I could be. It's not what A Course in Miracles is asking us to do. I'm willing to be so open-minded my brain falls out. Right? Thank you all. I love you all. And let's get set up for food.
Thank you, Carla.
So to end the stream is right here. And then your stream ended, yes. And then it's going to render